Hudson Valley Bookkeeping, and in this lesson, I'm going to explain beginner bookkeeping for your private practice. All right, let's get started. Hi, everybody. I'm Laurie from Hudson Valley Bookkeeping. We specialize in private mental health practices and their books, and I will be explaining bookkeeping in general. I assume if you're watching this video, you may or may not have purchased QuickBooks online. Someone has told you, you have to be able to count up your income and expenses for the end of the year in order to get your taxes done. And you may have checked out some videos on YouTube and somehow found this video. When I give lessons to therapists, whatever the profession may be, and what I mean by that is title, excuse me, if you're a psychiatrist or a social worker or anything in that realm, there's a lot of confusion of kind of even what you're doing with the QuickBooks, why you have the QuickBooks, and almost everybody just goes and connects a bank feed and starts randomly assigning account codes and categories. So what I'm going to do here is show you some basics, and then I'll probably build on it and give some more videos as well. Okay, so you've started out in private practice, you're busy with your therapy business, and now maybe you really are in September. We're September 24 while I'm creating this video, and you realize you have 9 months of what do we call bookkeeping to do, right? And you're not really sure what to do. This probably isn't in your zone of, like, math is usually not the favorite thing of someone who's in mental health, right? Kind of different things. Not that you could be bad at math, but it's probably not your favorite thing. And most will tell me that it's tedious, which it definitely is. It just depends if you like that or not. Okay, so why do you have to do bookkeeping? What is bookkeeping, right? So bookkeeping, the reason they call it that is that there used to be these ledger books, and they had like grid-like paper, kind of like Excel. And every time an expense happened, they would deduct money from their checking account and then take that $100 and they would post it in a second place for the type of expense it was. So if they paid $1,000 for rent, it'd be minus 1,000 in the book that said checking, and then they would put an increase for $1,000 for a rent expense. And that's how they would track the total they spent in each category. Why do you have to do this? It's very simple. You're tracking your income and expenses in order to create a profit and loss. Now, as you watch YouTube videos and try and understand this, or you're talking to a CPA or an enrolled agent, please don't do your own tax return. They will use the term P&L, okay? P&L. That is the short acronym for profit and loss. Accounting is full of these acronyms, and people in my industry love to they throw them out without thinking. That you've never heard of a P&L, right? So that's what a profit and loss, or P&L, is. They will use this profit and loss to prepare your tax return. So, and they will have you sign a form that says they are not liable if you give them bad data. So, like, really think about what we're saying here. You are going to sign a waiver that says that they are producing the tax return based on what you give them, and they are not auditing you. So it's not their job to make sure you did a good job. Okay, that's really important. Okay. So now you've decided, okay, I have to figure out 9 months. Maybe I'll do a spreadsheet. What's the problem with the spreadsheet? A spreadsheet could be fine if you only have like 2 months of data, and you would then, go figure out every expense you have and put them in columns, in a spreadsheet, and add them up. And hopefully you didn't double post and all of these things. But once you're really truly in practice as a real business and people aren't giving you 1099s, like maybe before you were a subcontractor getting some 1099s. So it's kind of easy, right? You didn't really have to count everything. People would send you the 1099s for wherever you were working for, and it was like a W-2. It's pretty simple. But now if you're really in private practice out on your own, you have to now think and act like a business owner. And I'm going to recommend a couple of things, but that'll be in some other videos. This is just about like understanding bookkeeping. And then I'll run you through what happens if you are, if you choose QuickBooks. That's what I would recommend. And we'll talk about that. So the whole reason you need to get QuickBooks or come up with a bookkeeping system is because you are now a business owner in private practice. That is the assumption we are working with. So what is this P&L that everybody is talking about? I have a demo file here where I've dumped fake data into it for different ways to do different YouTube videos. But we'll go up here and I'll show you what it looks like. And like, why does it matter? Once again, this is totally demo. Okay, so for this fake private practice, the income so far from January to August is $467,000. Then there are certain fees, such as if they were using a credit card company to process credit card payments and a biller. Now, these are really low because I didn't post them for everything. But again, this is just demo. This is just trying to show you, like, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with this? Then some expenses like malpractice insurance, computer, internet, rent, and utilities. Those are pretty much these are pretty much the main expenses of a therapy practice. These are like, I only have 1 month of rent posted in here. You'd have this 1,500 times 12, and you'd have this, different amount. But again, this is like a basic bookkeeping class. Like, what am I doing? What is happening? Right? Okay. So again, this is something at the end, once you proved out and reconciled, you would give to your tax preparer. And like I said, please don't attempt to do your own tax return. I don't do my own tax return. I have a CPA. Okay, so this is what a profit and loss is. This is going to be the most important for you. Most solo practitioners starting are normally LLCs. I have a couple corps in our practice, that are our bookkeeping clients, but most are LLCs. So this will be your most important thing versus your balance sheet, which will be really important for a corp. Okay, so how did this happen? Like, how did all of these entries get here and these totals? So if we go over, and this account's really simple right now. I think it only has a checking account. This is a bank register, right? So when you go on your bank account, you're going to, you'll have all those transactions that are, let's say you're at Chase. So you have all of these deposits. You'll see you have, expenses. This is where each transaction is happening. So let's dig in deeper and look at this some more. This is a deposit. It happens on a certain day. And in this case, so I recommend if you take insurance and you're getting electronic payments and it's easy for you to track the different insurance companies, I believe in making code, but that's for a different video. You can check that out on our playlist. But here, this deposit was coded to Therapy Services Income, MVP, the amount. This has the bank feed that comes in from the bank. Voila. That $77 shows up on our P&L, profit and loss. So if I click into this, this will only show the deposit transactions. See, look, you say deposits. So we're picking for our deposits, we're making sure we pick an income code, right? And in this one, for some of these, they are going to copay and self-pay. So you may have a practice where you don't take insurance and everything is complete self-pay. And then it's too hard to track the copay. So we just copay, self-pay. And you see how all of these are added up throughout the year. So we have that much in the copay or self-pay. And then we have a certain amount coming in from, see, and it'll come through like that, like in the bank transaction detail, it'll say Empire. So I'm in New York State. Empire is a really big health insurance company here, MVP. And so it's easy. This is Medicare, NGS, Aetna. So Cigna. So this is explaining, like, a lot of times when I go to train people and they've gotten the QuickBooks, they don't really even know what is the plan, right? Like, why are they going to do this? What is the point? And this is the point, is that you're taking the transactions that happen at your checking or in your credit card, and you're putting them into an accounting system that can easily make you reports. So, and the other thing to think about going forward is, especially if this is your first or your second or your third year, you really want to be in some kind of system that you can reflect on the past. So when you're running and comparing, like, how did you do in August of 2024 versus August of 2023, you would be able to run a profit and loss. I don't have it in here because this is like a 2024 file, but you would be able to do that, right? You'd be able to compare. Or, and for in this instance, I can compare month over month. So I did load in a lot of data for income for each month here. So you could say, yeah, I really usually make between 51 and 57, right? That's kind of my range. So if you saw one of these months, you had only 25,000, well, you have a problem. And I did have that with one of my therapists. All of a sudden, like, the income was half, but she took the month off for the summer. And then the other problem was she didn't bill in time, and she was cash basis, and we don't do billing in here. So her numbers were way down for one of the summer months, but it was explainable because she wasn't working. But if there's something wrong and all of a sudden you see a drop, and this is 20,000, and you say to me, no, Laurie, I worked my butt off that whole month. What do you mean I only have 20,000? Well, maybe we have a problem with your biller. Maybe your biller isn't working, or, there could be issues in that sense. So this is why it does matter, because then later on, you could be comparing this to June of 23 or 25 to 24. The other thing is, the IRS is going to say, how did you get that number of 444,000? So you have to be able to give what they call a general ledger. And this is the ledger for your income. Okay. Then you would have your expenses. Now, I haven't loaded up enough expenses in here, but still there's enough for you to see that the reason you need to have this is that you first, you have to show what is your net income, right? So, like, this is going to be the biggest thing. And your tax preparer, they really hate it when you give them Excel spreadsheets and you're going to pay more money, and it's probably going to not be as good. Is the tax preparer is not going to feel very sufficient with your Excel spreadsheet. They could be I've seen some of them, and they can be quite erratic in the eyes of a person that does accounting. So you're going to have all of these transactions, and then you'll probably also have a credit card. But this profit and loss is the basics of bookkeeping, right? And if you want to keep it really simple, you have one checking account and maybe one credit card. If you keep it to those things, your bookkeeping will be super simple. Every time you add one more bank account and one more credit card, you are just really increasing the odds of much more difficult bookkeeping. Okay. So again, this is the main thing of, like, what is bookkeeping, right? So I'm going to just kind of show you this other thing I want to explain, because you might see stuff on YouTube like Double entry bookkeeping. You're like, I don't know what double entry bookkeeping is. And right, you don't. Okay. So let's say, and again, we're kind of back to this thing where I said about ledgers. Let's say you spend $1,500 in rent. So we would debit the expense, rent expense. And this is the opposite. This is why it's so hard for people not in accounting. Get is that and everything is the opposite of what you say at a store. If the store gives you a credit, you get money back into your bank account. But in bookkeeping, when you credit the bank account, it goes down. Okay. So that is like the journal entry. When you hear about journal entries, that's the two things, right? So let me show you this in QuickBooks. We'll run it just for today's date. I'm going to go to my checking account and I'm going to add an expense. No one seems to write checks anymore today. And I'm going to put in the vendor name. Okay, I have one. We'll say September rent, $1,500 rent. Okay. Now, let me run a profit and loss for today. Okay, so the only expense I have for today is $1,500. Let's go back and add a deposit. So I'll go up here. You're going to normally have this connected into a banking feed, bank transaction feed with connected, and those are a whole bunch more videos. Like we're doing really simple, like what is bookkeeping? So we're going to go 9-2. I'm going to say 2,500. We're going to call it self-pay. Okay, self-pay. So now we have two transactions. We have a deposit for 2,500 in income, and we have a $1,500 in expenses. And if you take those two away, you should have a net income of 1,000. So we run it again. I went to the report, profit and loss. And there we go, $1,000 profit. So that is what it is, right? So I think after having given so many lessons over the years, that's the first part is that people are telling you, oh, you have to get an accounting system. Oh, you got to get QuickBooks. Oh, you have to learn a whole new skill, which is this, which is fine. You can learn if you really take the time. But this is kind of like my first bookkeeping understanding, like why you're doing it. And I'll put out more. If you listen to this now, you kind of know like, okay, this is my goal, right? My goal is to end up with one of these on January for the month of December. There are many steps to get to here. And like I said, the biggest things that are going to make it harder for you is if you have too many bank accounts. The other thing that's going to make your bookkeeping really hard is if you have too many credit cards. If you're spending money for your business on a personal credit card instead of your business credit card. So you could say to me, but I'm a solo practitioner and I can't get a company card because that whole thing. What you do then is you get one credit card that you only use for business. That's it, right? And you get one checking account no matter what that you only use for business, and you don't what they call mingle, because your bookkeeping is 10 times harder when you are paying things out of multiple credit cards, multiple bank accounts, and nothing can be reconciled. Reconciling's completely different video. And it's just bookkeeping is a lot more complicated than a lot of people think or lead on. So I think first, if you can understand like why you're doing it and why it matters, the other thing, why it matters and why you want to get into one of the versions of QuickBooks Online, probably start at the smallest, at a simple start. You can always build up. But one day you might want to buy a car, or you want to buy a house, or you need to get an SBA loan. They're not going to take your Excel spreadsheets. They're not going to believe those. If they see this at the bottom and everybody knows what the QuickBooks reports look like, if they see you're doing this, and then they get a couple reports and it seems to jive, you're going to have a lot better likelihood of people taking you seriously. So again, it's exciting time, right? You're in practice. You have your own business, but now you have to figure out how to do this piece. And so this is my first kind of like basic beginning bookkeeping basics of like, what is it? Because I don't think people really explain like, what are you doing with bookkeeping? So what you're doing is you're posting transactions to things like a bank account and then sometimes a credit card. I don't think I even put one in this field yet. No, I didn't. Um, but again, like this is as basic as it gets if you have just one checking account and you use a debit card. So let's say you have a checking account and for anything that you need to swipe or pay, you use a debit card. This would be exactly what you would do. Now, as you build up, you could, have a credit card too. And then there's the issue of any money you've spent for your business on personal accounts, which I will create videos for too. Um, so it seems like a lot of rambling, but I think it's the only way to really explain it is that it's just pluses and minuses in your bank account and on your credit card help to create what we call the profit and loss. And it's everything from this that your tax preparer will then take the numbers here and create your tax return. So the sad thing, I mean, it's not sad, but you know, it's mandatory, right? Bookkeeping isn't, it's not, something you can choose not to have done. So then you can think about, am I really going to do this myself? Do I want to spend my nights and weekends doing this? Maybe yes. Some people are good at it. I've trained plenty of people and they're perfectly fine. And then others, even after I've trained them and they're like, they have it down, then they say, can you just do this for me? I'm glad I know what I'm doing now, but I really don't have time for this. And we're already busy enough with work and I don't want to do this at night on the weekends and so forth. So those are the things. But I think if you understand what the goal is, it will be simpler to learn. And anyway, if you are looking for a private lesson, you can email me at hello@hvbookkeeping.com. And we also offer fixed fee bookkeeping services for mental health practices. All right. Have a great day.